We begin today's wrestling news and rumors video with some news coming out of the first night of the 2024 WWE Draft, the SmackDown episode which featured a bunch of major draft picks, and to go over some of the picks for those of you who missed it. For the first round of picks announced by Triple H and Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, and Seth Rollins were drafted to Monday Night Raw, and Bianca Belair and Carmelo Hayes were drafted to SmackDown, with Carmelo Hayes debuting in a big way as he faced off against Cody Rhodes in the main event of the show, and while he did lose to Cody, Carmelo Hayes had a phenomenal showing and has a truly bright future in WWE on the Blue brand. Round 2 of the draft picks saw Randy Orton and Nia Jax drafted to SmackDown, and Liv Morgan and Braun Breaker drafted to Raw, with Breaker arriving on the main roster in a dominant way by absolutely squashing Cedric Alexander in a matter of seconds. Round 3 of the picks saw LA Knight and the Bloodline drafted to SmackDown, with the Bloodline excluding Roman Reigns, who withdrew from draft eligibility as per Paul Heyman's announcement, and Raw got Sheamus and Ricochet. In the fourth and final round of the draft picks last night on SmackDown, Raw received the Alpha Academy and Kiana James, and SmackDown got Andrade and AJ Styles. Some of the picks announced following SmackDown on social media included Baron Corbin, the OC, and Cedric Alexander being drafted to SmackDown, and Monday Night Raw got Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark along with Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, and Ivar of the Viking Raiders. Overall, a good first night of the 2024 WWE Draft, and there will certainly be some more call-ups and roster switches announced on the second night of the draft on Raw this Monday, which is exciting. Now we have some pretty insane news to share with you guys regarding Vince McMahon's status in WWE, and for any fans who worried about Vince possibly finding his way back to WWE or taking over control from Triple H once the dust settles with his lawsuit with former employee Janell Grant, you don't have to worry about that anymore, as we can basically say once and for all, rest in peace Vince McMahon when it comes to WWE, as his ties with the company will officially be coming to an end very soon. For those of you who hadn't heard the news, it was reported yesterday through an article by Sportico that Vince is selling the rest of his TKO shares, meaning that once these final company shares are sold, Vince McMahon will have absolutely no affiliation with WWE anymore and no power in the company at all, whether from afar or finding his way back behind the scenes. Vince selling his remaining shares of TKO will mean that Vince's involvement or affiliation with WWE will be completely finished, with no chance of Vince ever coming back. Here was a blurb from this article detailing Vince listing the last of his shares of WWE or TKO, quote, WWE founder Vince McMahon is selling the last of his shares in TKO Group Holdings, a move that would end the executive's association with the business he has worked in for more than 50 years. TKO, which was formed with the purchase of WWE last year by Endeavor Group Holdings, filed a prospectus Friday afternoon showing that McMahon may sell up to 8.02 million shares he holds in the company, worth more than $776 million at TKO's closing price of $96.76 Friday. Now, for a lot of wrestling fans, this will be relieving news that Vince McMahon's ties to WWE will officially be cut soon once his remaining TKO stock is sold off, so Triple H ushering in a new era in WWE at WrestleMania 40 has a lot more meaning now, because while Vince had temporarily retired before when the allegations first came out, and then eventually found his way back in WWE earlier this year, that won't be happening again, and Vince McMahon is legitimately gone from WWE for good, and Vince has basically been banned from the company from even being mentioned, so he's truly being erased by WWE. Some fans speculated that perhaps Vince could try starting a new wrestling promotion outside of WWE, but one source recently reported that Vince has no intentions of starting any new wrestling company or staying in the business after his fall from grace in WWE, but could look to get involved in other business ventures outside of wrestling. So the bottom line here, guys, is rest in peace Vince McMahon when it comes to World Wrestling Entertainment. The Cody Rhodes era in WWE has barely begun following his undisputed title win over Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40, and there is already some major concern behind the scenes that Cody Rhodes' run as champion could be in serious jeopardy. Now, last night on SmackDown, Cody Rhodes was involved in the show in a number of ways, firstly signing the contract for his Backlash 2024 match against AJ Styles, a title match that is now in jeopardy, which we'll talk about in a minute, as well as standing alongside Triple H unveiling some of the 2024 draft picks picks, and then Cody Rhodes would go on to main event yesterday's SmackDown episode against the brand's newest acquisition, Carmelo Hayes, in what was a very grueling match for both superstars, and it looks as though Cody Rhodes has come out of that match against Carmelo Hayes injured, which puts everything in jeopardy when it comes to Cody Rhodes. It truly seems like there's a bit of an injury crisis in WWE these days, with so many top stars getting injured and forced to the sidelines, with some even having to vacate their prized championship like former Women's World Champion Rhea Ripley, and right now there is reportedly a lot of concern when it comes to Cody Rhodes. There was a spot towards the end of this match between Cody Rhodes and Carmelo Hayes, which saw Cody land extremely hard and awkwardly on his right shoulder after a failed Cody cutter, with Cody immediately grabbing his shoulder in pain, and while some fans thought this was just Cody selling the failed move, he was still holding his shoulder when the match was over after defeating Carmelo, suggesting that Cody's seemingly hard landing was very much real, and not something that was planned to happen whatsoever. This has caused there to be a lot of speculation in the wrestling world that Cody Rhodes has seriously injured his right shoulder, and according to a new Breaking Backstage report, Cody's injury is in fact very much real, and right now, Cody's being assessed behind the scenes by WWE doctors to determine the severity of Cody's right shoulder injury. This was Cody's first televised match following his win over Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40, and it couldn't have gone any worse for the undisputed champion. Right now, Triple H is praying that Cody's injury is minor enough that he would only need to be off television for a couple weeks to recover, because it would truly be disastrous for WWE if Cody Rhodes is injured badly enough that he would be forced to the sidelines for months on end, which would likely result in Cody Rhodes being forced to vacate or relinquish the undisputed championship by SmackDown GM Nick Aldis, sort of like how Rhea Ripley had no choice but to give up her Women's World title as per Raw GM Adam Pearce's request. It took so long for Cody Rhodes to finish his story, so if his undisputed title reign were to end so unceremoniously, that would certainly be very sad news to say the least, as no doubt Cody Rhodes was majorly factored into the plans for this new era in WWE that Triple H ushered in at WrestleMania 40, with Cody supposed to be an active, full-time champion on the SmackDown brand. We hope that Cody Rhodes' injury is nothing serious, and not something that would require Cody to be on the shelf for any length of time, or forced to give up and vacate the undisputed championship, but we will keep you guys updated as new details emerge regarding Cody's status following SmackDown this week, and again, all we can hope for is that Cody Rhodes' injury is not going to derail his title reign, especially when we're so close to the upcoming Backlash 2024 event, where Cody's currently still scheduled to defend the undisputed title against challenger AJ Styles, a match that may not even happen if Cody's injury is serious.